Fourth World Internet Conference opened Sunday in the water town of Wuzhen, Zhejiang Province. 1,500 guests are expected to attend the event. The summit focuses on the digital economy, openness, to build an online community with a shared future. I'm in Wuzhen to cover the event, bringing you the latest updates and opinions from industry insiders. Welcome to The Point. I'm Bixin in Wuzhen. Whether we like it or not, the internet is affecting every aspect of everybody's lives, whether they live in developed, developing, or underdeveloped countries. Advances occur almost every day in areas such as artificial intelligence, or AI, big data, or quantum computing. AI insider Harry Shom is here with me today to look into these trends. He is the Executive Vice President of Microsoft's Artificial Intelligence and Research Group. Harry Shom is also responsible for driving the company's overall AI strategy and forward-looking research and development efforts. Okay, so mixed reality, artificial intelligence and quantum computing. I'm going to start with AI. I think that's probably the easiest to relate to at this moment, and everybody is talking about it, right? It's like if you're not talking about it, you're not in the trend. How should we react towards this fast expanding topic? You know, at least everybody is, and everybody is saying it's going to change our lives. Where are we? And how is our lives going to be affected by this?
That's right. Well, first of all, I agree with you that everyone nowadays is talking about AI. In fact, the people are afraid of not talking about AI, especially those company executives. You know why? Because the opposite of artificial intelligence is natural stupidity. So you just have to really look into AI. There are very good reasons, legitimate reasons, I must say, why AI now is exploding. There are really three reasons. Three trends are converging in the industry. First of all, computing power. Because of Moore's law, in the last 25, 35 years, it's amazing amount of computing power. You know, it doubles every 18 months and exponentially. It's still growing. You know, people worried about the end of Moore's law, but it's still growing. The second reason is also explosion of data. You know, it's really because of the internet. Now we have the opportunity to collect a lot more data, and even more so with IoT. Sensors everywhere. So
IoT?
Internet of Things.
Of Things, of course.
Yeah, so it's the Internet of Things. So you can collect even more data from those little devices and sensors. And it's so clear that there will be billions and billions of such IoT devices everywhere. And the first thing they do is actually collecting data. So with all the data and with all the computing power, now the third reason, you know, for this AI breakthrough is really the latest new AI algorithms, particularly in the name of deep learning. That is really making the difference. So those three reasons, you know, are really behind the latest push, why people believe that AI this time is more real.
Well, for the ordinary human being, for the ordinary consumers, what can we expect at this moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. That we need to explain to people that, first of all, what AI really is. So the term AI, or artificial intelligence, actually came out, you know, it's actually only about 50 years ago. And it was really with the reference to human intelligence. And AI is actually not a new concept at all. You know, AI was really something that was dreamed by brilliant minds like Alan Turing. Long, long time ago, even before computers, digital computers were invented. So that's really amazing. When Alan Turing thought about it, wow, what if I actually could have this kind of digital computing power? What would be the first thing I should do? You know, Turing imagined that is really intelligence. That's really mimicking human intelligence. So then you would say, so what is human intelligence? Why do we think humans are intelligent? It's really two aspects. The first thing is what we call the perception. That's because we can actually see the world, largely through two channels, but there are many more other channels. But the most important channels are visual and audio. So we can see what's going on, and we can hear. In fact, the visual processing occupies roughly about 91% of the overall processing. So that is the perception side. The second aspect of intelligence is actually what we call the cognition. That is really truly understand what's going on. It's not only just perceive, it's really understand what's going on. What is the model that, why is this glass on top of the table? So all those things you have to infer the reason. And also you need to understand other people. Also you need to understand about yourself. So that's the cognition part. So we're actually making a lot of progress on perception, but not that much on cognition.
And AI is helping us with that? Or?
AI is absolutely making a lot of progress there, especially in terms of perception or computer vision or speech recognition. I give you some concrete examples. So in the field of computer vision and the speech, we have been working very, very hard in the last 30-some years. So they are standard test sets to measure how well we do as humans and how well we do as AI algorithms. So there is a very standard test set called the switchboard data set, organized in the United States, mostly in English. It turns out that the human error rate for the professionals, if you listen to some phone conversations, the human error rate is actually about 5.2%. Experts. So we recently at Microsoft were able to get error rate to only 5.1%. So for this kind of test set, we already are beating human. But that's only one kind of data set. People don't really think about this. For ordinary people, people like you and me, even if we listen to each other, in general, our error rate is actually more like 10%. So we just don't realize that. We still can understand. So in 5 years, I would say, speech recognition will be better than human, any way you measure it. And in 10 years, visual recognition will be better than human, any way you measure it. Now you can imagine the potential opportunities out there, what kind of things we can really change our lives. And probably starting by giving you a concrete example that, the vision capability to help visually impaired, say blind people.
Of course. I fully agree with you. In those cases, I think it's definitely a great thing. But for the people who are, perfectly healthy, who can see very well, hear very well, sometimes I like to see the world in a blur. I don't want to see it so clear. I don't want all the single details, hurting my eyes. What I'm trying to say is, sometimes there are some things in life we want to not know to the perfect detail.
That's right.
What could be some possible downside of artificial intelligence when you go to extreme with intelligence?
Well, there are a lot of things that we need to be careful as we develop AI, even more so apply AI to our daily lives. And one of those challenges there actually is about inherent bias and potential downside that AI could possibly cause you. I give you an example about the bias, and you may or may not think about this. Today, if you use an English search engine, doesn't matter which one you use, and use the image search, type a query called the CEO. Now, if you type a CEO there, then you get all those pictures, nice smiling pictures coming up. You know what? One thing you will realize is that, first of all, there's no woman. Secondly, there are no Asians. So, now you tell me, why did you get this kind of result? So there's certain bias there, and how we actually really think about applying AI. So there are many interesting problems that we need to think about. Of course, the people also worry about that. Will AI, is going to cause some problem like a job loss in certain areas. So those are the real problems.
Well, for the young people who are going into the area, who are thinking about their future, what would you advise them? What kind of mindset or skill set they should acquire before they start a career in this exciting era?
Yeah, I think that is such a great question, and I have been also thinking about that because I also take some graduate students myself, and I work with a lot of researchers. And I was thinking about that. So what's the new set of new skills that we need to develop for our researchers, our students? I must say there are a few things becoming more and more clear at this AI era. The first thing is I would say creativity is probably going to be even more important. As you think about that, then you say, where did you get this creativity? And I would say, A couple of things there. One is really what we call the computational thinking. And that is basically saying that you have to, as you think about these new problems, and you should think about expanding your current thinking capability by incorporating all those computing power. That is not only just the raw computing power, but even the way you think about how to formulate these problems. So computational thinking is basically saying, it's just like we used to just have stones, can hit something even harder. Now with the computers, now you can really arm yourself to solve those problems. It doesn't really just restrict to math and physics problems. It will eventually extend to even solving art problems, social problems as well. The other thing is really about the independent thinking. I have been thinking about this a lot more recently because of fake news. So fake news is becoming much more a problem, especially in the Western world with Facebook and other social media. People are now very confused, which one is really because we live in an echo chamber, which ones are really real. So this is where we have to develop this kind of capability to really understand what's going on.
Can artificial intelligence help us discern what is real, what is fake news?
Well, I actually feel very hopeful. I think
really?
Yeah, I think that's really hopeful. I think much of that, is not only about the technology itself. Much of that is actually how we even formulated the problem, and starting with the data sources. Even today, if you actually go to if you use web search engine, it's actually very important that when you get some news articles, you actually cite where this article is from. Mm-hmm. So you have the reputable the news organization like CCTV, and then versus some unknown places. That's actually very different. So I'm actually very hopeful.
Well, you work within different systems, right? You travel back and forth from the United States to China, and you know both systems very well. If I asked you to compare how artificial intelligence is pushed forward in these two different systems, what would be the biggest difference that you have noticed within these two different systems? And what's your comment on the advantages comparing these two?
Well, I must say that China has really progressed so much, and overall, I would say that the Chinese education system, I'm talking about the higher education system, has progressed tremendously in recent years, in the last couple of decades. If you look at the field of artificial intelligence specifically, you may already know the statistics, and someone actually did a study, looked at the major AI conferences, and all those papers published there. It turns out that all those authors with Chinese names, and they are more than 50% of the authors with Chinese names. Mm. And some may be in the US, some may be in Europe, some may be in China. So you get the idea. So there are a lot of successful researchers and with Chinese origin. So I actually feel very hopeful that in many of those AI areas that China is really catching up. In terms of fundamental research, I think that the United States is probably still leading in the world, not only ahead of China, but ahead of Europe and Japan and other places. I think there are certain very good research organizations. They continue to push out some incredible research results. Of course, at the same time, there are also some research centers outside the United States, like in Montreal, Canada, or London. There are also amazing AI work coming out.
Mm-hmm. But is China closing in on the U.S. in developing AI?
Absolutely. China is closing in, absolutely. And China is making tremendous progress there, I would say, not only in universities with those researchers there, but perhaps even more so in those companies. I'm not even talking about the big companies like BAT. I'm actually even more hopeful with the set of those startups coming out. I give you a couple of examples that in the field of AI and the computer vision, some of our alumni, coming out of Microsoft Research Asia, have started some computer vision startups, like Face Plus or SenseTime, and those companies are just making tremendous progress.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shom. You have been watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, I'll be talking to co-founder of LinkedIn, Alan Blue, about how the recruitment business is being disrupted by artificial intelligence. Stay with us. Thank you, Mr. Blue, for accepting our interview.
Thank you for having me.
It's estimated that by 2020, robotic automation and artificial intelligence will be leading to about 5 million jobs that will be lost across the world. However, there will be some 6 million jobs in cybersecurity that will have been left unfilled. How is this kind of imbalance disrupting the recruitment world?
It's making it more challenging for companies of all kinds to keep up with the rate of change. So traditionally, job skills have changed very slowly over a long period of time. And the generation which preceded mine will be just slightly different in terms of what I have to do on my job than the one than mine. Mm-hmm. However, now you can actually expect that job will turn over and turn over. Maybe 2 or 3 times while you're in the role. So with that rate of speed, companies are scrambling to understand how they hire for new skills, how they hire for new capabilities, new functions, and most importantly, how they retrain their current workforce so they don't have to rehire every time.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of new skills would you say that are most in demand over the next 5 years?
Yeah, so we have recently released a report here in China about skills and the kinds of skills which are on the rise. Now, we concentrated on digital skills, but that's where most of the change is occurring in any case. So right now, the 2 largest demanded skills in China are project management, so software product management, mm-hmm. and Java programming. But the 2 most quickly growing skills are soft skills, so the ability to work with other employees, to make great decisions, to do analysis, to work with customers, as well as C++, so another programming language. And coming up right behind them are a bunch of tools which are about data science, about big data, about machine learning, and about artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. So I believe what you mentioned is this report that you partnered together with Tsinghua University that is called China Digital Economy Talent Report, right, which ran a detailed analysis on China's professional employment experience and talent flow. What is the biggest surprise, or what is the major finding of that report, and in what way the China picture is different from other parts of the world?
So the report was, as I said, primarily about digital talent. We were able to look at the emergence of skills over the past 5 to 7 years here in China. And it was interesting, at the very beginning of that period of time, every digital skill was in demand. So whether it be programming or project management or fundamental components of computer technology, everything was equally needed. But now, as the Chinese market has become more mature, and there are more companies which are growing and scaling and beginning to compete internationally, the needs for skills have changed a little bit. They've become more focused on modern, upcoming technologies. They become more focused, as I said, on artificial intelligence and some of the future types of technologies we expect to arrive in the next 3 to 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Is that different from the talent market in other parts of the world, the China situation?
It is different. It's different primarily because the speed of growth in the Chinese market has been so high. It'll be very interesting over the next few years to discover whether the type of education which is available here in China, which is currently producing so many great technical people, will be able to keep up with that demand. Other parts of the world have had a bit more of a head start in terms of training those kinds of skills. One thing I should add, though, is that right now for artificial intelligence talent, the United States is actually sending thousands of artificial intelligence specialists back to China after they've worked there in those companies. So China is benefiting from the experience their employees have received all around the world.
And the reason behind that is because of the expansion and the growth speed of the Chinese market.
Speed of the Chinese market, how exciting it is to work in the companies here, the commitment of the government here in China to the future welfare of those companies. But most importantly, those companies are beginning to arrive on the world stage, and people are saying, wow, I might be able to go to China, maybe someplace where I grew up. I'd be able to go to China, and I might be able to get in early on something brand new which is going to change the world.
What implications does that have for you as LinkedIn, as a kind of social media with a purpose?
So for us, this is all good news. LinkedIn's mission is basically to make all the world's professionals more productive and successful. And what that really means is making each individual professional and each company and each educator better able to reach their own goals. So if we can provide more opportunities, so not just American tech companies, but worldwide tech companies, and put those in front of a single individual, if we can provide access for a company to hire not just locally, but across the entire world, that's a way to make them more successful. And as users are more successful, as professionals are more successful, LinkedIn itself is more successful.
Well, you mentioned for companies to hire not just locally but globally, but in this kind of highly mobile era, how do you recruit the best talent and retain them under the situation you're talking about?
It's challenging. So there are kind of two sorts of roles. So when we look at the data, here in China, but worldwide as well, and it's not, this effect is not quite as strong here in China. I'll come back to that in a second. When you look at talent, talent for technology, for high-paying jobs, jobs where you'll be able to move up quickly through the ranks at a particular company, that kind of job people are willing to relocate for. But for the types of jobs where you're less likely to be able to move forward quickly, or where you won't be paid as much, people are only willing to go a short distance to take a job like that. So what that means is that a company who's trying to attract talent, which is going to be high-paid, rare talent, they can choose from the entire world. So attracting the talent is getting easier, but as you say, retaining the talent is getting harder. So the only real way to retain talent is to pay attention to what's happening in the industry around you, to make sure that you're aware of what other companies are offering. And these are products that LinkedIn is also offering to our customers to make sure they can plan to retain the people once they're already in their job.
How do you think that artificial intelligence is impacting the recruitment world?
Well, it's impacting it in much the same way that it's impacting other industries which rely on making choices. So we all have the experience of going to purchase something online, and then there are recommendations beside it of other things I might purchase. That same problem is faced by recruiters when they're trying to sort between tens of thousands of candidates. Who's the best one for me? Which is going to be the best match with my company? Because for a recruiter, having 10,000 candidates is just as bad a problem as having 2 candidates.
Yeah.
So this is where artificial intelligence comes in. Artificial intelligence can help us make better decisions by looking at all the decisions recruiters have made in the past. There is, of course, something to worry about there, which is if recruiters haven't been making decisions in a good way, it's possible that artificial intelligence will learn the wrong lessons. So you have to always combine what the machine can know and what a person, a recruiter, would be able to do to make sure you're hiring in the right way for your company.
You have been in this business for the past 14 years, with LinkedIn especially. Would you say we're hiring much better talents, the right people for the right posts, more efficiently, more satisfaction on both ends?
Yes, I am certain that is the case. And the reason is that before LinkedIn appeared, the only way you could get a job online was by going to a job board. And a job board is kind of it's a very specific kind of environment. A bunch of people actively looking for a job, and a bunch of recruiters hiring. What LinkedIn did, because we've now brought 530 million professionals together in the same network, is we made every working professional available for recruiting. So that means that instead of having to settle as the recruiter for the people who applied for my jobs, instead I can go out and find them. And I can find exactly the right person. And if I'm finding exactly the right person, that's almost certain to be a good thing for me and for them.
Against the trend of anti-globalizationism, let's say, is it a problem that some people are finding that you're not just hiring locally, you're giving jobs away to people from other countries? Is there a problem there for you?
When we think about it, we see far more good in the ability to reach out across the world to bring in talent. And the reason we say that is we know companies benefit from having a real diversity of people who are working for them, who bring experiences from all around the world. We also know that companies are going to make their own choices. in terms of where they actually want to source from. We hope that they will learn from the best practices of other employers who are using LinkedIn as a system, who are discovering the value of diversity in the way they actually hire.
Let's imagine somebody's just going into university and wanting to choose a major. What would be your choice if you would be starting off at university at this time?
It's difficult because the most important thing for all of us on a go-forward basis is the ability to learn new things, the ability to change your job as you go. The future ahead of us, with all of these technologies, we're here at the World Internet Conference talking about these amazingly transformative technologies that are coming forward. They're going to change the way we work. And we're all going to have to learn new things all the time. So the thing you trained for in school, that training may not have fully prepared you for what your job will be like in 5 years into your career. So whatever you train for, whether it's for technology, whether it's for the economy and finance, whether it's for manufacturing, whether it's for management, whatever it is, make sure you learn how to work with people. Make sure you learn how to make decisions. Make sure you learn how to learn. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a position where people who are flexible and work well with others will be able to change and take on new roles where you yourself may not be able to.
Basically, learn the skills that machines cannot do.
Indeed.
Well, my last question, it is very interesting because LinkedIn is one of the few, let's say, international social media applications that are easily, freely available here in the Chinese market. Why is that, and how do you want to make the best use of that in the future?
When we began talking to representatives of the Chinese government about operating here in China, we found that they felt the same way about what they would like to achieve here in China. They want to find a way to make the economy grow faster, to bring more opportunity to Chinese people, and I think they see us as one small addition to their overall plan to bring economic transformation to the company. So we're proud to be part of that. And we hope we can make the individuals and the companies more successful by working in partnership with the government.
Thank you very much, Alan Blue, co-founder of LinkedIn. That's it for this edition of The Point with me, Li Xin, coming to you from Wuzhen in South China's Zhejiang province. Download the application called CGTN Live to watch our show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Follow me on Twitter or Facebook using the handle The Point with LX. Thanks for watching. You've got the point.